Okay, so as we go to the second industrial revolution, which is really just an escalating of the first industrial revolution, this is where the US takes the lead. This is where the US really out innovates Britain. And a couple places where we see this, or the first place where this is really manifests itself, is with the Colt revolver, where we start to see kind of the characteristics of the second industrial revolution manifest. So one of those is interchangeability, the idea that when you're producing something, which is now how everything's produced, but it's a radical idea in its time period, which is everything's the same. Back in the day, every item you would get would be bespoke. It's made by that person. Each item is kind of the same, but they're not definitely interchangeable. But with the Colt revolver, you get interchangeability where each part is exactly the same, and then we assemble it, which is how things are in the present. So, my cell phone, it's like, you could take a similar cell phone, take it apart, and put it back together with different, different parts. This is a famous Johnny Cash song, "One Piece at a Time," about him stealing a piece of a car, one piece at a time from a factory that he drives off. Let's check it out. It's a good song. Yeah, it's not a great song, but it illustrates the point of interchangeability quite well. Okay, and so this has many advantages. One, it's just easy to repair things. Especially in the battlefield, that's important. They sort of demonstrate this to the British. Now, it doesn't really work that well, so it's not like it's like perfect interchangeability, just because of the tolerances. You can't. It's in the modern era, you can get really, really close, with really, really fine tolerances. That really doesn't become possible until the 1890s with hard-tempered molds. But they can approximate it. They're trying for it. It's not perfect though, really, until the back half of the 19th century. And so Britain kind of realizes the ascendance of the US in the 1851 Great Exhibition, which is kind of like a technological fair in London in 1851. And there's this great kind of song that was written at the time that that shows the prowess of the US. So this is, everyone's kind of making fun of the US. Hey, our former colonies. Yeah, remember those guys? But at this exhibition, this is where the US beats the British in a sailing exhibition. So this is the America's Cup. They beat England. So okay, they got faster yachts. All right, so they've been able to perfect yacht technology to get faster yachts. Their guns are better now. So this is with the Colt revolver. It shoots better than the British guns. They got better locks. And so slowly the Brits are starting to realize, hey, these Americans are a force to be reckoned with in the industrial sector. As we get into the back half of the 1800s, we see the second industrial revolution manifesting itself all in many, many different industries: food, chemicals, and really this is where you get the modern factory, where you have batch processing and electrification of the factories, and real true interchangeability, where you really could take something apart, put it together with parts from something different. The market has increased dramatically in the back half of the 1800s, post-Civil War, with railroads. You see railroads crisscrossing the US. We have the railroad fever. Railroads are being built everywhere. This makes the US a much more connected marketplace. You get the rise of manufacturing. And with that, the decline in agriculture as part of the economy. Of course, people are still need to eat. People are still eating the same amount, or they're eating more, actually. But in terms of people employed by manufacturing, that's where the real growth is. And so this shows the labor force expansion. So the total labor force expands in the back half of the 1800s by about 3 times. But you could see a couple industries really dominating this. So manufacturing is basically expanding more than the labor force, And we see trade, mining, iron and steel manufacturing, and railroads really, really, really growing and teaching. Okay, that's good to know. Whereas agriculture is expanding, but not as expanding as rapidly as the rest of the economy. So these are kind of your growth sectors. You know, today our growth sectors are like tech, healthcare. I don't know. That's probably pretty much it. I guess education. Now, education has actually declined, at least with the pandemic. It's declined by like 10% or something in job wise. But tech, healthcare, those are expanding sectors that I know of right now. All right. And your 10 largest industries, you can kind of see this, the second industrial revolution industries taking hold. Sorry, the 10 largest industries here in the US: machinery, lumber, printing and publishing, iron and steel, malt liquor, that's like that food, again, like industrialization in food, men's clothing, cotton goods. So like most of these are, you know, second industrial revolution type industries. Okay, and then we see the changing structure where there's much more machines being used. Okay, we can see this in the capital labor ratio. So there's much more machinery involved in the production, and the power source changes as well. So one of the big innovations is kind of centering the factory around electricity. Like electricity is this like new invention, and really designing the factories to utilize that is important. I mean, there's a great commentator, one of my personal favorite commentators, Tyler Cowen. Like what he has said with the pandemic, one of the things that the pandemic has forced companies to do is really take advantage of the internet, which may seem crazy that, okay, like they weren't taking advantage of the internet before, but really you think of the internet as, over the past 20 years, is the big it's the big invention, or it's the big, you know, big new technology. Really putting that at the center of the company, really fully utilizing that as, you know, as a piece of technology. Something similar has happened there. So, you know, you would have a, you know, steam power before electricity. Factories would use steam power, and so you'd have like one big motor basically, and everything running off that big motor. With electricity, you can put motors throughout the factory, and so it took a bit of time to really fully realize the capabilities of this new piece of technology, to put electricity at the center of the thing, to design everything around it. That's what Cowen is talking about when he talks about the internet. Really putting the internet and then designing the company around, hey, we have this thing that connects us all. Can we redesign the company to take advantage of, or redesign our interactions to take advantage of that new technology? All right, so what are our new, what are some examples? We have the new cigarette, the Bonsack cigarette machine. We have grain processing machines. We have new ways to make shoes, and really the fixed costs involved in, you know, making these investments to produce for these machines really aren't possible without a large market. So you need a large market, a large place where you can sell your goods, like a large number of people to sell your goods, to cover the fixed costs of the machine investment. Okay, let's take a break there.